Oh, it's so nice to see you all back here again. Oh my gosh. Oh my. The congregation keeps growing all the time. Oh, it's a beautiful thing, and I know the word's getting out, and I know I have a lot of, and I know Preacher Joe and I have a lot of you to thank for helping us get the word out and helping other people find out about us, and everybody's just happy as can be. It's a good thing. Yes, it is. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. Thank you. And speaking of good, we know that good is good. Good means taking care of the environment. Good means we treat each other fairly and justly. And good means we do right every chance we get. And good means not doing wrong. Good is another word for right. And right is righteous, and that is what God is, and that's what you are when you do good by God. But the opposite of that, of course, the opposite of that is something we've all labeled it, and we all call it evil. Now, this term evil seems to be as old as time. And since we know that good is kind, loving, nurturing, generous, gracious, understanding, non-violent, peaceful, reasonable, meaning able to reason rationally, fairly, and compassionate. Good is certainly compassionate. And last but certainly not least by any means, good is honest. Honest. Oh my, how important honesty is. When people start to go astray from honesty, they are slipping into darkness, sure as can be. They are slipping into darkness. They are heading into evil territory. Now, know that evil is the opposite of good. Know that most people are not sociopaths who lack the ability for the above-mentioned traits. I'll run through them again real fast. The above-mentioned traits are being kind, loving, nurturing, generous, gracious, understanding, nonviolent, reasonable, compassionate, and honest. No, unfortunately, a sociopath who seems to have, unfortunately, no real control over themselves and their condition, they lack the ability for all those things. And brothers and sisters, they are among us. And though it may not be their fault, it may be no fault of their own, that which makes them sociopaths, nevertheless, you must be wary of those that lack these traits. Any one of these traits, you must be wary. Yes, you must be wary. That's all I'm saying. When you find somebody who is not generous, who's not kind, who is not honest, or who is violent, who is not nurturing, loving, reasonable, or understanding, or compassionate, yeah, these are people that you're gonna have to pay attention to. You're gonna want to be guarded. Yes, you are. There's another type of person out there that I have to say, I don't know. I'm not a psychologist, so I don't know that they have any control over it. Nevertheless, you must be wary of them. And I'm going to go ahead and hand this off to Preacher Joe. Preacher Joe?
Hello, everybody. My. Oh, my. Just as Preacher Isaac said, we're so pleased with everybody who's been listening to us, and we're feeling really good about this. And we're here to help people out, and we're here to make sure that everybody stays safe and has as good a life as possible. And that's one of the reasons why we're discussing this, because we know that there are people in our congregation who are so full of love and so full of joy, and sometimes because of that they may not be as guarded as maybe they should be. And we just thought this might be a good time to just mention some things that you might want to keep an eye out for. So we've already covered sociopath. I know that sounds like a heavy term, but let's face it, but that is what we call them. They are among us. They don't seem to care about much of anything but themselves, and they'll do bad things without any regard for who they've hurt. And it's sad, but and like Preacher Isaac said, they may not even be able to help it themselves. It may not be anything that they have any control over, but still, that doesn't mean that you should put yourself or anybody you know in harm's way of individuals who just do not have that ability to care. Another trait that's really something, another condition, if you want to call it that, is narcissism. Now, narcissism is something we've seen a lot here lately out of a particular individual, and it's a really bad and scary thing, because first of all, this narcissism means they see themselves as the center of all that there is, and therefore they think that the world revolves around them. And they are very, very confident people. They're very high on themselves. As such, they come off with such confidence that some people get lulled into just following them blindly. It's kind of like most people just walking down the road, and here comes this individual pulling up in this car, and they seem so confident, and they say, hey, if you get in my car and you're with me, oh boy, who knows where we might be able to go? Anywhere, to the top of the world, get in the car. Well, as soon as you do that, boy, you're in that car, and you better stay with them, because if not, they will toss you out and you will get severely hurt, if not killed. They're very dangerous. This is what this trait, narcissism, is one that we find in almost all dictators. Almost all world dictators have this trait. And one reason why they get to where they've gotten is because they have such belief in themselves, and they always seem to just know how to push the right buttons, to always open up the right doors, and to get the support behind them. And once they do, they can do dreadful things. We all saw this with Adolf Hitler. We got to be very, very weary of this sort of person and recognize it. When these people seem to be like on an ego trip that is just almost unbelievable, and they are all about themselves, a lot of them are very high energy, and a lot of them seem to be very accomplished. But you will know them because they will act as if they are. They will come off and they will give every appearance that they are the be-all and end-all of everything. That is a narcissist. Watch out. Well, what we have just spoken about, the sociopath and the narcissist, these seem to be, as best as Preacher Isaac and I can discern, these seem to be traits that people are born with, and doesn't seem like there's much we can do about them. Unfortunately, it seems to be a fixed thing, as best we can tell. It just seems to be unchangeable. But there is another trait that is also very, very negative. One could call it evil, very much been referred to as evil. And that trait is the trait of greed. It's a sickness, people. It's a sickness. And it can wreak havoc wherever it exists, because it knows no limits. And it will destroy everything in its wake, and it will still not be satisfied. So watch out for that, and watch out that it never happens to you. And watch out for people who you can tell suffer from the sickness of greed. Right now, the world is suffering and has suffered from these three evils, because there's no other way to put it. Sociopaths don't care who they hurt. They don't seem to possess love and the ability to have compassion. They don't seem to care about honesty. Narcissists have run the world into the ground many times, as we saw with Adolf Hitler. They've taken us to the brink of the most unspeakable, ungodly evil. And greed certainly is threatening our planet today, threatening all of God's creation, threatening life. That's where greed gets you. It just brings nothing but misery, even from just the greed that exists here in your neighborhood, all the way to the highest, most powerful offices in the land. Can I just say something here, Preacher Joe? Anytime you want to cut in, that's fine. I just want to say that I believe we would like to, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I think we'd like to refrain from calling the people with these traits evil. Fine by me, Preacher Isaac.
But certainly what they do, and because of how their behavior is, it certainly does cause them to do evil things.
Yes, praise be. Yes, praise be. Praise be.
All right.
All right, well, enough about that. Now let's move on to some happier things. First of all, let's go ahead and let's just wrap this sermon up with some joyful songs from our hymnal.
Well, that sounds wonderful, Preacher Joe. That sounds wonderful.
Now you can listen to Preacher Joe and Preacher Isaac's sermons on Facebook just by typing Better Way Church into the Facebook search box. That's right, Preacher Isaac and Preacher Joe now also have their church in a Facebook group. So all you have to do to hear their sermons is go to the Facebook search box and type in Better Way Church. And that's not all. Now you'll also be able to contact them there directly. So now hearing Preacher Isaac and Preacher Joe's sermons is as easy as 1, 2, 3. When you're in Facebook, just put Better Way Church into the Facebook search and the link to Better Way Church will appear. Click on that link and you're there. Glory, glory, it's never been easier to listen to Preacher Isaac and Preacher Joe.